You ever hear something so crazy that you do a double take? Well, I just heard that people are saying that Cardano could hit $300 someday. Yeah, $300 ADA. So I nearly obviously spat out my coffee. It sounded insane, right? Well, guess what? I spent all night digging into this wild prediction, and you won't believe what I found. So, here's the scene. I'm up late scrolling crypto news, and I stumble on folks seriously talking about ADA, the coin that's about 87 cents right now, right? Give or take a few digits, right? And they're talking about it going to triple digits, right? Now, for context, Cardano kind of around 87 cents per coin with a market cap of around $31 billion. So a jump to $100 or even $300 would mean growing over 100x from here. So we're talking about, 11,000% to 34,000% in gains. Now that's the kind of exponential leap that you usually only hear in hopium-filled crypto Twitter threads, right? I mean, even well-known Cardano bulls like Dan from Crypto Capital Ventures has floated around a $10 target, and he's a perma bull, right? And $10 ADA itself would be pretty huge. But $100? $300? It sounded so far-fetched that I just had to investigate it for myself. Could Cardano really pull that off? And if so, how long would it actually take? I had so many questions here, so I grabbed another cup of coffee. This was turning into an all-nighter, and I dove headfirst down the rabbit hole to chase this $300 ADA idea. First, I wanted to see if any kind of concrete reasoning existed behind these astronomical numbers. Were people just throwing darts, or was there actually a story here, a timeline, or some kind of master plan maybe? Now, to my surprise, I found that not only were community members speculating, but even AI models and some analysts had mapped out hypothetical timelines for Cardano's path to triple digits. And yes, I'm actually talking about step-by-step predictions for the next 10 to 15 years. As someone who kind of loves a good old treasure hunt, I was a little bit hooked here. I thought, all right, let's see what the machines have to say about this. The Google Gemini revelation. Now, I started by asking Google's new AI chatbot, Gemini, about ADA's future. And I figured, hey, let's get a futuristic prediction from an actual futuristic AI. And oh boy, did Gemini deliver a story. So it didn't just spit out a number for me. It gave me a whole 3-act saga for Cardano's journey to 3 digits. According to Gemini, Act 1 is what it called the infrastructure era, from 2025 to 2027. Right? This is kind of where Cardano focuses on building, making the network stronger, making it faster, making it more scalable. Gemini highlights upcoming upgrades like the Hydra, a layer 2 scaling solution, and the Ouroboros Lios, a fancy upgrade to Cardano's consensus protocol, as total game changers. Right now, these would basically turbocharge Cardano, making it handle more transactions and just run faster, like giving it a supercharger. Now, with those improvements attracting more developers and decentralized applications to the ecosystem, Gemini suggested that ADA's price could climb into the $3 to $5 range in that 2025 to 2027 window. Now, $3 to $5 might not sound exciting at first, but let's think about this. Cardano's all-time high was around $3.10 back in September of 2021. So if ADA hits, let's say $5 by 2027, well, that would actually be a new record high, and it implies that its market cap would be north of $150 billion. That's like the Cardano fulfilling, I guess, a big chunk of its promise in just a couple of years. So when I heard this, I kind of nodded along. $3 to $5 feels tangible. Most conservative compared, I guess, to the $300. It's like the story is starting off grounded in reality. Then comes Act 2, adoption surge from 2028 to 2030, or 2028 to 2030. I don't know why I said 2000. Way too early for me, maybe. Anyway, this is where things started to get pretty wild. Gemini basically said If Cardano can prove itself useful in the real world, this is including DeFi, stablecoins, even digital identity systems, and if big players, think institutions and maybe governments, start using it, well, we could see ADA's price really take off to somewhere in the $20 to $50 range. Now, I remember reading that and literally saying out loud, slow down, $50 ADA? I had to rub my eyes. Now, $50 a coin, given the supply, we are talking $1 trillion plus market cap, which would put Cardano up there with the likes of Amazon and Apple in value, and definitely on par with even beyond, I should say, Ethereum's peak years, right? I mean, it would be absolutely bananas. But Gemini had some rationale here. By 2028 to 2030, or 2028 to 2030. I can't talk today. Maybe crypto's much bigger overall, right? Relations or regulations are clearer, so big money feels safer moving in. Cardano might be integrated into global finance systems as a sort of backbone. If all of that happens, a massive price surge could follow. So I was picturing headlines like Cardano flips banking system or something like that. It sounded like science fiction, yet here was an AI calmly laying it out like a research report. So part of me was kind of laughing in disbelief, and part of me was like, well, imagine if that actually happened. Finally, Act 3 of Gemini's saga was the 2031 to 2035 period, where Gemini basically envisioned Cardano as a standard layer for the digital economy worldwide. Now, this is the kind of crescendo of the AI's story. By this time, Cardano might be so integrated that it is handling millions of transactions daily for people and businesses all over the globe. Kind of like how the internet's underlying protocols silently handle tons of data every single second, right? We don't think about, TCP/IP, do we? Right? It's just there powering everything in the background. In Gemini's view, Cardano could reach that level of, ubiquity for finance or decentralized applications. And if it did, well, Gemini suggests ADA's price could finally actually hit that fabled $100 to $300 range. So when I saw $100 to $300 in the output, I had to just scroll back up and make sure that I had read it right. That's kind of what we're here for, right? But seeing it from an AI with this kind of logical kind of build-up, it kind of got chills for a second here, because $300 ADA is such a moonshot that it's almost hard to comprehend. Right? We're talking multi-trillion-dollar valuation. I literally kind of whispered to myself here, this is either pure genius or pure fantasy. Right? It kind of felt like Gemini was painting a best-case scenario, almost a fairy tale for crypto Cardano believers, right? Start slow, gather steam, and conquer the world by 2035. Now, as much as I love a good old story, I needed a second opinion, right? To make sure that I wasn't just reading one overly optimistic script. So I turned to another trusty AI buddy of mine, ChatGPT. Now, I basically said and asked, do you think Cardano could reach $100 to $300? And if so, when? I half expected ChatGPT to just kind of bulk and kind of give me a super conservative, that's unlikely answer. But interestingly, it did entertain the idea, just with a lot more caution and a longer time frame. ChatGPT's response was kind of like a sober friend in the group. Tapping the brakes, it started by pointing out the massive scale of what we're talking about. To hit $100 to $300, Cardano's market cap would have to explode from $31 billion now to somewhere between $3.6 trillion and $10.7 trillion. That was trillion with a T. So for reference, the entire crypto market at its peak of 2021 was around $3 trillion, and that was with every coin combined. So right off the bat, ChatGPT was basically telling me, look, this would require crypto as a whole to be at least go giant mode, right? It's not saying that it's impossible, of course, but setting the stage. Like this is like imagining a world where crypto has gone truly mainstream globally. Then ChatGPT broke it down into phases as well. Apparently AIs love phases. Well, 2025 to 2027, it said, Cardano might grow steadily, Price-wise, maybe somewhere between $2 and $5 by 2027. This actually overlaps with Gemini's kind of first phase, though ChatGPT's lower bound was $2, meaning it's actually allowing for the possibility for things to just go okay and not amazing. It mentioned similar drivers. Cardano's tech and ecosystems would be maturing. Things like DeFi platforms, stablecoins, digital identity projects on Cardano could become, or at least coming to fruition. Basically, Cardano building a solid foundation, showing real utility. Market cap in this scenario could reach 70 billion towards 180 billion. Not too shabby. $180 billion would likely put ADA in the kind of top spots for the crypto market. So far, so good and not too crazy. Next, 2028 to 2030. In ChatGPT's view, if Cardano manages to capture a share of real-world asset tokenization, the old put land titles and real estate and government bonds on the blockchain vision, then ADA could maybe push into the $10 to $25 range. Well, that would correspond to a market cap of roughly $360 billion to $900 billion. Now, $900 billion is nearly $1 trillion, which is huge, but it's not unheard of if you think about it. Maybe a Google or an Amazon-sized valuation. At this point, I was picturing a world where maybe some country's land registry runs on Cardano, or some big supply chains use it for tracking goods and stuff like that. It's a stretch, but it's conceivable if blockchain really does kind of, perforate kind of the markets. Still, we're only at $25 max in this stage, still nowhere near $100, and ChatGPT was effectively saying, patience, young Padawan. Then 2031 to 2035 rolls around, and ChatGPT hypothesized by then, maybe even governments and mega corporations could be using ADA as part of global settlement systems. This is the kind of classic crypto dream of being part of the plumbing of global finance. Now, if that happens, ChatGPT thought that ADA could reach between $50 to $80. Pricey, yes, but still below $100, right? The corresponding valuation would be in the low trillions, like $1.8 trillion to $2.8 trillion. So by 2035, ChatGPT's optimistic but not crazy scenario gets ADA maybe up to a high in the double digits. Now, I noticed something here. ChatGPT is sort of laying out milestones and saying, even if everything really does go well, then $100 is still another leap beyond that. It's kind of like those kind of video games where you level up and the XRP bar just gets longer each time. Finally, 2036 to 2040, ChatGPT said this is the earliest that it sees a chance for triple-digit ADA. It basically pushes the $100 to $300 possibility out to somewhere in kind of the late 2030s window. And even then, it was kind of, couched with big ifs, as in if Cardano maintains a leading position in the crypto space for another decade plus, meaning that it doesn't get overtaken by some new tech, and if the entire crypto market grows to tens of trillions in size, then maybe ADA could crack $100 and in the wild kind of best case stretch up towards $300. ChatGPT was practically waving a caution flag saying, in effect, sure, $300 ADA could happen, but you would need a perfect storm over many years. So when I read this, I appreciated the reality check. It kind of felt like a friend putting an arm around my shoulder and saying, it's okay to dream, but don't lose sight of reality. By the way, I found it kind of amusing that both AI predictions, that's Gemini and ChatGPT, independently ended up with a similar kind of upper target, around $300, but on very different timelines. Gemini is kind of like that super optimistic friend saying, in 10 years, it could happen if everything is awesome. And ChatGPT is the cautious friend saying, give it 15 years at least, and only if things go unbelievably well. As someone trying to kind of piece together the truth, seeing both angles was actually quite helpful. Now, beyond the AIs, I checked what some human analysts were saying, and it turns out that the folks are, at least at Changelly, this is a crypto exchange known for its price forecasts, have predicted somewhat in the line with these AI timelines. They projected that by 2040, Cardano could reach the low triple digits. In fact, Changelly's analysts predicted ADA might start the year of 2040 at around $74 and then cross $100 by February of that year. They even kind of threw out a specific peak of up to $304 by May of 2040. So essentially, real people are also saying late 2030s to 2040 triple digits ADA could be on the table. Now, it's remarkable, right? So when multiple independent sources, that's 2 AIs and a set of human analysts, all converge on similar ballparks, even if it's way out in the future, you start at least to wonder if there's actually a pattern or common reasoning. Or maybe it's just a case of groupthink, right? Now, I'm not sure, but it definitely made me raise an eyebrow. Now, at this point in my investigation, I had a mountain of information. My notebook was filled with scribbles, percentages, dates, market cap calculations, you name it. I had one of those kind of cliche detective moments, paper stewed, about connecting all the dots. It was both exciting and a little bit overwhelming, right? On one hand, the dream of $100 plus ADA now had a sort of roadmap. It was pure fantasy, or at least it wasn't pure fantasy, I should say. There were some concrete milestones and, more importantly, conditions attached. And on the other hand, those conditions are tremendously challenging, right? We're essentially kind of talking about Cardano achieving world domination status in crypto. So I sat back and I asked myself, do I actually believe that this could happen? Well, here's where I landed. I think possible and probable are actually 2 very different things. Now, is it possible for Cardano to reach $100 or even $300? Sure. In the same way that it is possible for a determined little team to eventually build the next Apple or Amazon or Google, right? It's a long shot, but it's not a zero chance, right? So many things would, have to go right. Cardano's technology would have to keep improving without any major hiccups. The team, the broader community, that is, would need to attract tons of developers and users. The crypto industry itself must grow enormously and survive regulatory crackdowns. And Cardano has to fend off all of the other smart contract platforms and remain among the top choices for enterprises and maybe even governments. So all of that is a bit of a tall order. On the flip side, I've been around crypto long enough to know that today's impossibility can become tomorrow's reality. I mean, Bitcoin was once trading for pennies, and the idea of it hitting $60,000 sounded ludicrous, let alone $100K, until of course it did. Ethereum was mocked as magic internet money very early on. Now it underpins a whole decentralized finance world. Could Cardano be a dominant settlement layer in 15 years? Maybe, right? Stranger things have happened in tech is my point. Remember when we thought the idea of everyone having a touchscreen supercomputer phone was crazy? Now it's just life. So I'm left in this kind of weird space then. I'm skeptical, but I'm hopeful. One more thing, right? I know that this is kind of part excitement, or at least where excitement can make people think I'm going to go all in on ADA and retire in 2035. So let me just pump the brakes here and be super clear. This might shock you as well because I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube, we're liable for any losses, right? This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now I know that was a mouthful, but it is super important to understand. We're talking about crazy high targets way in the future, and I don't want anyone to gamble their livelihoods on it. Stay safe out there, my friends. Alright, so after this whole adventure, reading the AI predictions like a sci-fi novel, checking analysts' forecasts, running my own numbers, what is the takeaway? Well, for me, it's that Cardano hitting $100 plus is a marathon, not a sprint. The optimistic timelines are put in, at least a decade or more. It's not something that's likely to happen next year or the year after that. Now, it might never really happen at all, but the journey towards that goal could be fascinating and potentially rewarding, even if it falls a little short. Maybe ADA doesn't hit $300. Maybe it only hits like $10 to $20 by 2030s. Maybe, all because it just found a solid niche, say developing world finance and powering some national ID system. That's still huge progress from where it is today, right now. This investigation actually kind of gave me a deeper appreciation for what Cardano is trying to do. All the talk of Hydra, scaling, the global adoption made me realize that the value is in the use cases, not in the coin's price, right? If millions of people end up using Cardano under the hood for something meaningful, well, the price will likely reflect that utility. Maybe not $300, but who knows, right? So in a sense, aiming for $300 is just symbolic. It's imagining Cardano as a top-tier backbone of crypto, right? Will it get there? Well, I'm intrigued enough to keep on following the project's progress to find out. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on those upgrades, Hydra and so forth and beyond, right? Because developer activity is also something to focus on, and real-world pilot programs on Cardano too. Now, by the way, if you're also passionate about learning and staying updated on Cardano or any crypto developments, then you should probably join our free educational Discord server. There's a link in the description below. It's basically where a bunch of us crypto nerds hang out, share the news, debate the predictions, and yes, we include wild ones just like this. And we keep each other there, we help each other kind of learn, I guess. And it's a great time, and you might even catch me there at 2 a.m. discussing the latest Cardano news. I really do this. So yeah, come on by and say hi. It's free and all about education and community. Also, another quick shout out. If you're looking to buy or trade Cardano or any crypto as you do your own research, well, I personally use a couple of exchanges. Blowfin is one that I've been using recently. It's pretty user friendly, and BitGet as well for some of my trades. Now, I do have affiliate links for both of these in the description down below. Using those links helps support the channel here at no extra cost to you. So if you do go and sign up and trade using those links, it's a win-win. Now, of course, there's no pressure. The best support is for you guys just watching and engaging, liking, commenting on these videos. But I want to be transparent about those links, that they are affiliate links that actually do support me and this channel, and the content keep coming. So if you do use them, thanks in advance. At the end of the day, my personal plan isn't to bet the farm on $300 ADA, right? I'm going to keep it realistic amount of my portfolio, right? Maybe I'll accumulate a little bit more during the dips, but I'll also kind of enjoy watching the story, I guess, play out, whether it's $5, $50, or someday $300. The fact that we are even having the conversation about Cardano's long-term potential is rather exciting. It means that the crypto space is alive with possibilities, and we're all here early, witnessing the evolution. So if you've enjoyed coming along on this little Cardano adventure with me, you can do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments down below, hit the subscribe button, and maybe even click on the video that's queuing up on the screen just over there, because there is plenty more to explore. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you all in the next one.